411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that impact us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. For your girl, 411 Live.
Hello, I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. We've just wrapped up Season 8, and you know what that means. It's time to give you the rundown of what we've been chatting about all season long. Over the next 3 episodes, we're serving up snippets of the 20 episodes that made this season special. Stay tuned for a mix of topics that hit close to home. Meet some fascinating folks you'll be excited to get to know, and catch some info that might just make a positive impact in your life. Okay, let's begin with episode 1 of season 8, the spread of violence, understanding violence as a communicable disease. In this episode, David Muhammad, Deputy Director of the Milwaukee County Department of Health and Human Services, dives into the impact of violence on youth and breaks down how it can spread from person to person and affect entire communities like a communicable disease. However, there's an upside to this. We're not just dwelling on the negatives. We're also digging into how we can team up and make our neighborhoods safer and more peaceful for everyone.
When we talk about it from the lens of Milwaukee and looking at neighborhoods and communities, when we see disinvestment in a neighborhood, when we see institutions in those neighborhoods that are going away, taken away, or are under-resourced, you start to see community life break up. When you see families under great economic and social pressure, you see that acted out in ways that express anger and frustration, or even in many respects, self-treatment. We can look at drugs as a form of self-prescribing, whether that's alcohol or other types of hard drugs. Mm-hmm. And people are coping in various ways that can be self-destructive. And so when people express that frustration in unregulated emotional ways, it can erupt in violence. So all violence is really a retaliatory response to feeling unheard, disconnected, unloved, disrespected, or vulnerable. And when you put it in that context, whatever means or methods people have, whether it's a gun, whether it's a hand, whether it's abusive language, all of that can take on the form of violence. But it all comes from a level of violence which is disinvesting in neighborhoods and communities and destroying families.
Yeah. When we talk about the young people, and, in the news, young people are associated with the stolen cars.
Sure.
And we had, a mother on the 411 Live not too long ago. Her daughter was, in a stolen car with the kids, and she was hurt.
Absolutely.
In intensive care, and couldn't talk. But she was able to kind of motion. And her mom asked her, you going to keep on stealing these cars? And she said, yes. And then her mother reminded her of the consequences and, of those actions. And then she said no. A lot of people are out there who just say, but these young people who are doing these things, just lock them up, lock them all up. Mm-hmm. Why is that a bad idea?
Well, I think anytime somebody is a threat to themselves and to the general public, there should be a place for them to be rehabilitated. The fact remains that even though we have places like that, rehabilitation hasn't worked. And if it did, Milwaukee would be one of the safest places, right, because we incarcerate have some of the largest incarceration numbers of Black males particularly. Given the example that you cited, what you're looking at is high-risk behavior. And there's a level of adrenaline and risk associated with that than you and I probably had a different way or a different outlet to express or have. And in this generation of young people engaging in that kind of behavior, it doesn't make sense to us. But I'd say, remember, maybe 15 years ago, the smash and grab in the malls didn't make sense to us either, or some of those other things that young people were doing. And, stealing a car only to crash it and jump out of it or drive it in a haphazard way with your friends recording it doesn't seem like something that would make sense. But when you're looking at young people who are disengaged, who are under-supervised, and there's a lack of resources, they're making probably the most self-destructive choice they could make. But it didn't happen in a vacuum. And I would kind of like to share with the audience where I see that this behavior has evolved over time,
Please
if it's
do.
possible. Well, a couple of things. There's policy points that you can identify where trends start. And so we can say, well, there's a viral trend about Kia or Hyundai, all right? But I remember when, maybe around 2015, the police department got in some trouble, 2015, 2016, 2017, for traffic stops. And in the street of Center Street, there were about 20,000 stops in Milwaukee. About 7,500 of them just happened on Center Street. So there was a lot of focused policing in a certain area under the guise of traffic stops, but effectively it was racial profiling.
Okay.
So there was not a lot of traffic safety type of policing or quality of life policing, but it was targeting certain drivers, certain profiles, or even individuals and having a traffic stop. When that lawsuit came, the police department, there was a chilling effect. And so there was a stepping back under that police chief at that time. I believe it was Flynn, and then it was Morales. And they went into a much more targeted type of policing that says, okay, we're going after mobile drug houses.
Right.
The word got out that they weren't going to chase. Chief Flynn was against the chase policy because he said it costed the lives of citizens and officers. When the shift from Flynn to Morales happened, Chief Morales reinstituted, as well as the FPC, and many people in the community said, chase them.
Right.
Go after them. And so you started seeing more and more crashes and incidents. There were incidents happening when there was a no chase policy, but you know how it is.
Episode 2, Representation Matters, Why Teachers of Color Are Essential for an Inclusive Education System. Here's an eye-opening statistic for you. In Milwaukee, more than 67% of the teachers are white, while more than 90% of the students are of color. This is a bit of a mismatch, right? Research is telling us that students thrive both academically and behaviorally when they see more teachers who share their background. The catch? We've got a shortage of teachers of color. But don't worry, I've got some awesome guests on board to chat about solutions. Contributing to a great conversation, Anthony McHenry, CEO of Milwaukee Academy of Science, Rodney Link Jr., CEO of Milwaukee Excellence, and Jennifer Lopez, CEO at Carmen Schools of Science and Technology.
I had the honor and privilege of having a Black principal when I was in my elementary school. I went to Frederick Douglass Elementary School on 38th. And Concordia, really sad that it's no longer open. And I had a dream that I was going to open that school back up, like when I came back. It was a whole thing. But Mr. Thompson, Principal Thompson, made it so I was able to see myself as someone that can do this role. Mm-hmm. And I believe, as Jennifer states, when we sit in these positions and get results for students and fight tirelessly for them, they're going to say, oh, I can do that as well. And I think that is something that is the profound impact. I think we need great teachers of every race inside all schools. Mm-hmm. The profound impact that a teacher of color does for our students, they can see themselves doing that now. And I think that's the part that is missing sometimes, and missing the sense of like, we are the bearers of knowledge. We can teach our own communities. I think the last thing I'll leave you with on this one is, when we used to, they said before integration, right, we used to control the church, the stores, and the books, right? Education. So before 1954, Brown v. Board, we lost some of this cultural capital of seeing ourselves as the bearer of knowledge, as the person that's saying, hey, you are going to give me this knowledge, and I can give knowledge to one another as well. And that's where I think we have to get back, and we're fighting very hard to do that. MAC and MAS, they just put on, I'll plug them, they put on a great, diversity conversation around bringing people back into teaching, because I believe, and I think you all are doing a great job here too, because people don't know what's at stake right now for the city of Milwaukee if we don't get more individuals that look like us teaching our students.
Right, right. And then, you look at, and, we've all seen the stats and all this, the education gap between Black and white students, brown students, white students, all of those comparisons, and the gap is wide. And this is one of those ways that we could start narrowing that gap, I think.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we know we need them. We know we need teachers of color. Where do we get teachers of color? Because, a lot of graduates are going into other fields. They're not going into education. And to me, with education, it's more of a calling than a profession almost. But how do you get that drive?
Yeah, I want to challenge with the question just a little bit.
Okay.
It's not a small part of the equation of how to fix it.
It's a big one.
Having high quality teachers, as Rodney said, of any race is the answer.
Right.
Right. I said this the first day that I spoke to the staff at Milwaukee Academy of Science when I was hired. We can become a great school if I'm an average CEO, but we got great teachers and great student support staff and paraprofessionals. The opposite is not true, right? It's the key. If we get high quality teachers, kids win, right? What research is telling us is that if those teachers look like the students, the rate in which they're going to win accelerates tremendously, right? Just the fact that having one elementary kid, one teacher by the time you're in third grade that's of your race increases your likelihood of graduation 13%. Like, that's mind-boggling. Just one, right? What if they have 10?
Yeah.
Right? What if all of them are African-American teachers? So it's a big part of the challenge. I think one of the things that we are doing wrong, but one of the things that we have in common is we're no longer just looking at traditional pipelines for teaching. What we need to do is kind of rethink how we talk about the education profession. Like, it drives me crazy when people say, oh, teachers aren't paid enough. Well, to be honest with you, that is 100% factual, right? But there are several other occupations, and quite frankly, most of the other occupations that Black people are graduating college from that are also underpaid, right? And simply, we can't pay our teachers worth, right? I'd give all of them $1 million because that's the work they're doing. But the point is that this is a career that you can have a really, really quality life if you become a teacher and if you choose to do something beyond that in education as well. So I think we just need to change the messaging so that kids aren't constantly hearing that teaching is such a difficult job and it's a low-paying job. People can create a great life for themselves in the education space. But the other part of it is we just can't depend on colleges to push out all of the teachers. And so I say to anybody who has a degree or is pursuing a degree, whether it's in education or not, you should really consider this. Right? You're not going to find a job that's going to be as fulfilling as helping young people chase their dreams and their goals, right? And so,
Episode 3, Living the Sober Life Mentally, Physically, and Spiritually. We dive deep into a program that's making a real difference for women who have been through some tough times. And I'm talking about real trauma. Joining me are Nancy Yarbrough, who is the executive director of Fresh Start Learning, Angela Clements, and Darlene Dyson. These ladies are bringing the real talk, laying it all out with openness and transparency. The podcast takes us on their journey and shows how far they've come.
The first time I was inviting parents, and by me being an advocate, when I heard the title, Living Sober, I thought it was like recovering like you. So that is why I wanted to participate and have some of the families come so they could be comfortable just to support them. But in the midst of me going to that group thinking I was supporting parents, I became a person that was interested in, wow, this is me. It's not so much about addiction, what I thought the title was. It was more about the mindset and change your way of thinking. And then in that midst, I realized I probably was one smoke away from being where they're at if they weren't telling the truth of how they got there. I was really in those situations, not knowing that's where it would have led to why you thinking that it couldn't be you. So I was excited when she had it again, like, sign me up. I didn't even really think about parents at the time. I was thinking about myself. So I did still pass the information on, but it was personal this time and the urgency. So.
Okay. Well, if you will allow me, let me go a little deeper with you.
Okay.
What were some of the things that came out that you were like, okay, I'm struggling with this. I need to explore more of this. What was going on in your life?
This is the honest truth. I don't even think I shared it in group yet. I was going to do it later on. I realized how much I hated myself.
Really?
In the midst of me always saying, I'm strong, I'm this, and the things I was doing in life, I put myself up there like all of these qualities and all these men's and what they had. And then in that midst of breaking down in those cycles, I realized I hated myself versus thinking I loved myself by the choices I was making. So that was like an eye-opener to me, like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me all these years I'm up here living like this and that, and in actuality, I don't even care about myself. So then I had to learn that if I'm out here helping others, this is something I definitely need to seek, because hurt people hurt others.
Right.
But then I want to be the answer to somebody else's problem. So therefore I had to figure out, now I'm a problem. So yeah.
Okay. So what are some of those choices you were making?
Like knowing the men's wasn't good enough for me, and yet and still making excuses why I should still be there. As in, okay, he might cheat, but he got a lot of money. He may call me out my name, but he paid my bills, take care of my kids. I kept settling, and I kept tolerating. So then once I knew my worth, by taking these classes, I started figuring out who I really was and who I could be. All that stuff was falling off like dead skin.
I like that. What was that aha moment?
When I heard so many women at the table talk about what led them to a drug addiction, and then I said to myself, that broken heart will get you to that point. And I'm just one.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we will continue our review of Season 8 of the 411 Live.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Hi. I'm your retirement fear. But don't be scared. You're still in pre-retirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. Here, this is pretirement.org.
Retirement savings options? Potential tax breaks?
Move.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.
You got this.
Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan.
Welcome back to our look at Season 8 of the 411 Live. Let's go to episode 4, Black Women Working to Provide Affordable Housing in Milwaukee. This episode should light a fire under you to get you involved and make a positive impact in your community. The city of Milwaukee set aside $15 million from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, or ARP, for a housing program to renovate vacant houses and turn them into affordable housing. Well, the city threw out a call for developers. And my guests, Adrienne Hunter, Anita Clinton, and Jennifer Webster, a CEO, a marketing strategist, and a new real estate agent, along with 3 others, didn't just sit back. Nope, they rolled up their sleeves and turned their vision into action, becoming developers. You know, you will be an inspiration to others. You will be role models. How do you look at that, or how does that hat fit?
So I didn't consider it from that perspective until once we posted it, people started saying it, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's really interesting because I was more concerned, if concerned is the word, with the fact that it was 5 women, right, and a man, but 5 women, and 5 African American women, so let's be clear, and the stereotype that we can't work together, that we can't get along. And so for me, it was more focused. I was more focused on, okay, let's make sure that we do what we can do to keep this thing together, to deliver at the very end. And then I think that it's just an added benefit that we may become mentors to other people that are looking like, man, if they can do this, we can probably do this too. And so I think that's really cool.
And you're business people, so I'm sure that you have, your little agreement among you, so everything's on paper. So down the line, you won't go, well, you told me this, and that kind of thing. Everything's in place. Right?
It just makes sense.
Yeah.
And once you've done business before and hit a few hurdles and had to jump over a few hurdles, or ran and fell into a few potholes, you know that any good business venture requires a good infrastructure and legal structure. Yeah. And if you're offended by that, you're not ready. And so once you've been accomplished in business, you know that let's put it on paper. And then you understand too that when you're moving in business, it's a live document. That means that there's going to be a time where we have to come back to the table and modify the agreement. But when you have the right people at the table, and if you're careful about being a great student, you're okay with that. Yeah. If offense kick in, you're not ready.
Yeah. Episode 5, Grieving Fathers, Overcoming the Stigma of Internalizing Pain. You've probably heard the heartbreaking saying that no parent should have to bury their child. Unfortunately, when it does happen, the grief is unimaginable. My guest, Kevin Tarkington, the founder of Fearless Fathers, shines a light on something important. He points out that fathers often get overlooked when it comes to dealing with the loss of a child. This episode is all about recognizing the pain fathers go through and giving them the space and support they need to grieve.
A lot of times with fathers, we all know, growing up as men, you're always told to be strong, suck it up, you get through this. And that is good, it keeps positive, but it's a negative connotation about men holding their feelings and being able to express themselves. So they internalize their feelings. So we move forward on to adulthood, and then expressing their feelings about certain things is not always as easy because you expect them to be strong, brave, and get through it. And then you go through grief and you lose a child. Yeah. What do?
Yeah.
How do you express yourself as a male?
Right. And I think, we say women seem to get more attention. It may be because the men are not being vulnerable to show that they need some healing. They need
Absolutely.
that.
And the reason they're not being as vulnerable is because of what they've been told and how they've been expressing the impression that they give as being men, which is not wrong. However, as I always say, men have feelings too. We just have to get those out and talk. Women, as you can see, they're easy to express themselves. They're expressive people.
We are.
So you expect that. But with men, fathers, we have to remain strong. We have to give that persona as being strong.
And the grief is just as deep.
And the grief is just as deep. Mm-hmm. That's when I came up with Fearless Fathers, going through my own grief and being able to notice that we need to get something out there for men who feel and felt the same thing that I felt when I lost my child.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
You lost your daughter.
I lost my daughter.
About how long ago?
2016.
2016. Okay.
Her name is Ebony. And
tell me about Ebony.
Okay. Ebony is a beautiful soul.
Yeah.
Wonderful person. Loved people and loved being around people. And so much more to talk about. I mean, we all who lost a child can talk all day about our child and our children. Right. But my experience with that is I lost her due to complications through non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I lost her in my home. That I happened to come into a room on a Sunday after church and find her unconscious. So in that instance, I immediately felt myself being a different person. And I knew at that time that I wasn't going to be able to get through this without God, one, and then two, without some other assistance. So what I did was I sought out some assistance through a therapist early on, and which was good time being, but I felt I needed more. And then what I did was reach out to an organization called the Compassionate Friends, which is an organization that works with parents that lost a child. Mm-hmm. parents, grandparents, I should say, as well. And I went through that, and I attended a couple of sessions. And when I went to my first session, I was one of 2 guys that was there. So in the sessions, you know, each person is going around talking about their loss of their child. And it's
Episode 6, Northwest Side CDC, Creating Economic Business Growth Opportunities. If you're on the lookout for some solid guidance and resources to kickstart and grow your own business, you'll like this podcast. I'm chatting it up with Willie Smith, Executive Director of Northwest Side Community Development Corporation, and we're revealing how his organization offers businesses the support they need through coaching and funding. But here's the kicker. Willie's got some valuable advice for you, too. He's all about emphasizing the need to rethink your strategies as your business takes off.
You hear all of these stories about Milwaukee and just a number of the different areas where we're lacking in comparison to comparable cities throughout the country. And, you know, oftentimes, and even on the social service side, I won't go down this road too far, but I feel like, you know, we've succeeded admirably at what we've tried to do with our people, with, you know, a lot of the social services and things that we've provided. And I say that because I feel like what we've done is assisted people with surviving. Mm-hmm. There has been no effort, in my opinion. There might be a few out there, so I won't say at all, but oftentimes, the majority of programs and such are designed for people to survive, not for them to thrive. Mm. And if you think about it, as a people within this city, that's about where we are. It's survival. So we've done that. But the catch with that is you have to keep doing it.
Right.
You have to keep, you know, kind of feeding the monster, if you will, and, you know, kind of keep the machine going so that you can keep these people surviving where, you know, what if we were looking at things in a little bit differently? What if we not only tried to assist a person with obtaining a job or with getting a business loan for their business, but we also look beyond that. I mean, if you're, you know, if your business is making, you know, $500,000 a year, what about shooting for $5 million per year? And what does that look like? And, you know, when folks begin to think along those lines, it changes what they see as potential for themselves and their business. Right. So we try to, you know, work with businesses in that fashion and, you know, bring partner organizations in. It's not just Northwest Side CDC. So the one thing that we're not is an organization who believes in silos. We collaborate with a ton of different lending institutions, much like our own, and banks as well. So, you know, the goal is to just do more. You know, how much more effective are we if we're collaborating and, you know, using partners to make things happen?
Well, you know, for a lot of people, they just need somebody for that encouragement.
Exactly.
You know, they see this much. They need somebody to kind of open their eyes a little bit and see the bigger picture.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. And the obstacles that people believe are there, I don't necessarily buy that either. The money, people think the money is the problem.
Right. And I'm going to stop you there because you said, I wrote this down. You said change the mentality.
Yep.
Move from that survival, and you said, and that downtrodden mentality, right?
Unfortunately, that is rather prevalent in Milwaukee and in a lot of communities where people just don't feel like they can move beyond where they are, you know, so they operate with that mentality.
As you can see, the 411 Live is all about diving into a variety of interesting topics. And trust me, we've only scratched the surface in these episodes. I encourage you to listen to the full episode, so watch it on YouTube. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll highlight the remaining Season 8 episodes next time. The 411 Live is a nonprofit organization, so if you'd like to support us, go to our website, the411live.org. Thanks for listening. I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. God bless. If you would like to check out past episodes, there are many ways. Go to your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like and watch us on Facebook. Watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have suggestions for future episodes, go to our website, the411live.org.
411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that impact us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. For your girl, 411 Live.
Hello, this is Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. We have hit another milestone. Praise the Lord. We've completed season 8. And you know, we always like to highlight nuggets from the completed season. We're serving up snippets from all 20 episodes. And last time, we took a stroll down memory lane with episodes 1 through 6. Now in this episode and the next, we're continuing our review. Get ready for a mix of topics tackling important issues in our community, introducing you to some incredible people, and dropping knowledge that might just impact your life. Stay tuned. It's going to be a good one. Let's start with episode 7, Lead Poisoning in Milwaukee, a silent danger and a growing problem. Our children are our future, and I'm sure you all agree. They are precious, and it's our job to keep them safe, but there's a silent danger lurking in parts of Milwaukee, impacting their health. Michael Mannon, the director of Home Environmental Health at the City of Milwaukee Health Department, enlightens us about the extent of the problem. He points out that lead paint, used from the 1920s to 1978, is still present in over 250,000 units, maybe even more, causing hazards when it starts to chip or create dust. And it's not just the paint. Lead can be found in the water and the soil, too. But here's the kicker. State laws are putting a limit on what can be done to tackle the issue.
You know, to get your idea around how much does it take, right? All that you need is a packet of sugar that most people are familiar with and spread that throughout your entire house. One packet of sugar. That's as little as it takes to get a child poisoned. Oh, wow. And then you look at all of the areas that could deteriorate just on regular use. Not necessarily busting a hole into a wall. You've got windows going up and down. Every time you open and close those windows, those friction surfaces deteriorate and they create dust.
Yeah.
Dust blows in. Right at the height of a sill that kids would want to take a look at, put their hands on, maybe falls onto the floor. People are walking, especially young children that are crawling.
Oh, wow. That gave me a visual. Child crawling. Yeah.
Yeah, or just doors opening and closing. I mean, we only open our windows maybe on hot, warm days, right? But a door opening and closing every time you walk past it, every time you step on that threshold, all of that could have lead paint on it, deteriorates, and you just drag it right into the home. So there are lots of ways for that dust or deterioration to get into the built environment.
Right. What's prevalent lead? Prevalent in Milwaukee? It's in the paint, in the water, and in the soil, right?
Yeah, and it's important to note where it comes from, right? So we know it's on the coating, the walls, doors, windows, porches, things like that. How does it get into the soil? Well, that's because the exterior of the home is painted in lead, and weathering, just normal weathering, could deteriorate it, and then you get chips into the soil all along where your drip line is, around where your gutters go straight vertically down. So, or from your gutter itself, pushing out some of that lead paint, because your gutters might have been painted with it. So that's how it gets into the soil. So it's predominantly in the soil from paint. We did have a lot of gasoline that was leaded. And so a lot of vehicles that were driving in the 30s, 40s, 50s, before they took lead out of gasoline, all that exhaust was leaded, and it would settle into the soil as well. So we don't have to worry about that as much, but I guess my point is there's lead in the environment, and our task is to diminish the amount of lead so that the impacts don't affect people within their homes or their community.
Okay. That's a great overview. Thank you. So now with Milwaukee, we have a concentrated area, right, for this lead. Like you said, it's spread out because a lot of homes were built before 1978. But there's a concentrated housing stock, I guess you would say?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question because it really opens the door to discuss all of the issues that kind of intercede in that space. One of them is the fact that you got old housing that has lead paint on it. But we know old housing with lead paint isn't enough to cause lead poisoning. We can go into some areas of Milwaukee like Bayview where they have the same age of construction but less poisonings. That's because those properties are maintained better. Now we go to certain parts of our city where we know the properties aren't maintained. And why aren't the properties maintained?
Episodes 8 and 9 were a review of Season 7, so let's move on to Episode 10, where we pick up on the lead issue. The episode is called Learning Challenges and Barriers Faced by Children with Lead Poisoning. Let me hit you with a stat that really caught my attention. In 2021, the percentage of Milwaukee children with elevated blood lead levels was nearly double the state average. That's not a small matter, considering that lead poisoning can cause behavioral issues and learning disabilities. Joining me in this eye-opening discussion was Holly Manis, a public health nurse with the Milwaukee Health Department, Shaquita McElroy, and Deanna Branch, two incredible parent advocates with the Coalition of Lead Emergency, or COLE. They're not just talking the talk. They're sharing their personal experiences as moms dealing with the impact of lead poisoning of their children. Together, we're digging into the importance of testing, case management, and community collaboration. They offer practical prevention tips as well.
It wasn't until a routine lead check at the WIC office where I was alerted that, he had a high lead level. And the WIC office just told me to take him in to his pediatrician. I really didn't know it would be as severe to the point where when he did get tested, he was admitted into the hospital. 2 days after the test results came back, he was being admitted into the hospital. I had so many questions that I felt like weren't really being answered. It wasn't really until just becoming a member of COLE that I learned the severity of really all of my child had to face. But there definitely were signs that were being passed off as just like, oh, he's just going through a terrible tooth phase. It's what they call it, but it was definitely signs that I felt as a parent I really knew something was off. So it was just hard to. All of my worries were. It was just came to a full head when he was diagnosed with lead poisoning, and after he was diagnosed with that, a lot of other things came about with his behavior as far as ADHD and ODD and. It just really is a lifelong process for any child who is lead poisoned. No matter severity, there's no safe level of lead in the blood for a child.
Yeah. And so when you were at the pediatrician, I think, were you telling me that you told the doctor something seems a little off?
Yeah, this is before the WIC office appointment. And I was just, before I moved into the house that he was lead poisoning in, but he was having, I don't think it was the lead level in the first house or my eldest son we were living in, it wasn't as bad. But the pediatrician office in the neighborhood I took him to, she didn't really address my concerns when I was having concerns about his behavior. She just passed it off as terrible tooth phase. Every child is different because I didn't experience those symptoms with my oldest son. It wasn't until I moved into a new house with my sons and a new pediatrician. And after the WIC office visit, that's when she really was more hands-on and addressed my concerns, got him tested right away, and walked me through the process of him being admitted into the hospital for lead poisoning. And I just feel like she really was a big help. She's a part of COLE now. She's an awesome pediatrician that he still visits till this day. And she's going to be my new daughter's pediatrician as well. She's just awesome. It's just really great to. Throughout all of this craziness, I created a lifelong friend with my pediatrician. It's been great knowing her.
Yeah, and I should mention that you are an expected mother, so congratulations to you for that. Tell me the effects that you were mentioning.
It really is different for every child. My oldest son, he wasn't as impacted. He wasn't hospitalized for his lead poisoning. But he does have problems in school that affects his learning process. It's hard for him to concentrate and focus. He has dyslexia, so he has barriers that it makes it hard for him to, get up and he writes things and.
Episode 11, Empowering Futures, Northwestern Mutual's HBCU Connection Scholarship. Here, we shine a spotlight on the scholarship program designed to support students pursuing education at accredited historically black colleges or universities, HBCUs, and address social and racial disparities faced by young people in Milwaukee. Steve Ratke, president of Northwestern Mutual Foundation, and D'Essence Johnson, a scholarship recipient now attending Miles College, are my guests. Together, we delve into the significance of unlocking the full potential of talented individuals and the positive ripple effect it can have on the community.
We have tried to identify kind of what we call pipelines, and that's kind of an odd phrase, but we've looked at schools, high schools, again, primarily those that are serving, students of color or people who might be coming from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, where they can get a real quality high school education. Then looking at those high schools, and we work very closely with some of our schools. We work closely with our Howard Fuller Academy, Milwaukee Academy of Science. I know you've had some of the leaders of those schools on your program before. Then look at the schools, the grade schools that they go to, and make sure that those grade schools are being supported. And then even back to pre-elementary school education to make sure before they're even in school, they are exposed to opportunities to read and get those fundamentals before they even enter a formal classroom. And then look beyond high school into college, and what can we do to provide wraparound services, again, for people who are, might be first generation students. Another program we're heavily involved with is All in Milwaukee, which helps support, we're supporting 100 students who are going through the All in Milwaukee program, who are going to college locally. Again, so we can help these students throughout their entire learning career. And again, we want everyone to have a great opportunity to be leaders in Milwaukee and come work at Northwestern Mutual someday.
Yes, absolutely. And I think about, the work that you're doing, and it seems it's even more important after the pandemic, because so many kids got behind because of the pandemic, and there's a lot of catching up that needs to be done and a lot of focus on education. And the more people that are involved in this, the better, to help these kids to get where they need to go. And just knowing that there is that support, that they are supported and people are pulling for them, I think that really makes a difference. D'Essence, I want to ask you about, and I talked to you earlier, you are the first in your family to go to college, right? And tell me what that means for you.
Yes, I feel like I am breaking a generational curse. I'm making a way for the rest of my family, the ones that are younger than me, to go to college as well. Although my older brother and my mom didn't fully make it through college or get to the college point, they both were excited for me to push me to go out of state and to continue my journey here at Miles College.
Yeah. And I can imagine that you have a younger brother. You're going to college, him seeing what you're doing and what you will accomplish. I would imagine that you think possibly that would have an influence on him.
Yes, my little brother, he already wants to go to high school in Texas. I don't know why, but he just wants to travel. He definitely likes to be out and to see what the world is.
Yeah. How has that just getting away? Because, I talk to a lot of kids and a lot of people haven't ventured out past Milwaukee. So how has that whole idea of moving hundreds of miles from home, how has that impacted you?
I get sad at times, but at the same time, technology has taken a lot into society, and FaceTime, group calls, all of that. So we're all on FaceTime 24/7, getting ready for school, work, all of it. So I see them every day.
That's good. I wonder who was more anxious about the move, you or your family?
Me.
You think you were?
Yeah. My family wasn't, they wanted me to go, but they weren't quite ready for me to go in.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we will continue our review of Season 8.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Hi. I'm your retirement fear. But don't be scared. You're still in pre-retirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. Here, this is pretirement.org.
Retirement savings options? Potential tax breaks?
Move.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.
You got this.
Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan.
Welcome back. We continue our review of Season 8 of the 411 Live. Episode 12, Family Dynamics, Love, Challenges, and Explosive Relationships. This is a raw and honest conversation with Ira Harris, author of It Takes a Village to Raise a Child. Harris unfolds her personal journey in her book and shares with us the profound impact of a loving grandmother and the challenges posed by a troubled father. Harris drops some wisdom, emphasizing the importance of teaching children about God. She believes that understanding and living by God's ways offer a better chance than navigating the corrupted ways of the world.
He was older, much older than my mom. I think my mom was 16 or 17.
Oh, she's very young.
Yeah, and he was in his late 20s. And from what my grandmother said, they used to go fishing all the time. My grandmother, her husband, and my mom and the kids. So they used to go fishing all the time. And they met in church, and he wanted to take my mom fishing. And my mom ended up getting pregnant behind going fishing.
Okay.
So
doing a different kind of fishing.
Mm-hmm. But I do know that they both was in church. So I know that's where all this sentimental and spiritualness inside of me comes from.
Okay.
Because it's in our background.
So she got pregnant. That's with your sister.
The oldest girl, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And my grandmother said they had moved to Kenosha. I don't know if I was born. I can't remember. They had moved to Kenosha after she had my oldest sister. And the story is my dad was abusing my mom. But somehow the neighbor knew my grandmother and called my grandmother and told her what was going on with my mom, that my dad was had locked her in the house, wouldn't let her do nothing. He can hear her screaming and stuff like that. So my grandmother said she sent my mom's youngest sister over to Kenosha to rescue my mom.
Okay.
And brought her back.
Okay.
So
the baby and Liberty.
I think
your sister's Liberty.
Her yeah, that's her nickname.
Okay.
So I believe I was born then.
Okay.
And then to continue that, she ended up, my mother, I remember this so clearly. My mom went to court for child support, or either she got subpoenaed and had to go to court for whatever. So it was me and my oldest sister. And I know for a fact I wasn't no more than about this tall. So I had to be about maybe 7 or 8 years old. And the courtroom was dark. The judge was an elderly white man, and we sat there for a while. Then he finally called my mom's name. I don't remember all the words, but what stuck in my mind was my dad crying to the judge saying,
Episode 13, From Stroke to Redress, Reggie Jackson's journey of healing and advocacy. In the healing process, sometimes you have to go back to your past and address it. That's precisely what we do in this episode as we discuss the Redress Movement, a national organization committed to empowering communities to address racial segregation. We also focus on the healing process of our guest, Reggie Jackson, a historian and co-owner of Nurturing Diversity Partners, who is also in the healing process from a stroke. He shares his journey of recovery and how he became involved in the redress movement. Learn about the historical forces that intentionally created segregation, the impact it still has on our communities today, and the steps being taken to redress the damage caused by these policies and practices.
It came as quite a surprise. Fortunately, my wife was with me when it happened, and she forced me to go to the emergency room. I just told her, I said, I just feel kind of tired. I'm just going to go home and, get some rest. And she was like, we're going to get you behind to the hospital. So, I listened.
Yeah.
And, went to the hospital, and they told me right away, yeah, you had a stroke. And they kept me there for 3 days.
Wow.
Doing some, some testing and, no real treatment right away, but just looking at, the condition of my brain and, how it impacted my body. Fortunately, it wasn't a really major stroke. It was a pretty minor stroke. I mean, no stroke is really, really minor.
Yeah.
But the damage that it caused wasn't anything significant. There was no paralysis. It just impacted the strength on the left side of my body and made my voice, not the voice that I'm accustomed to hearing. So that's the biggest struggle I've had is just, getting my voice strong again. But my body feels great. I've lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, you
Made
have.
some lifestyle changes. Eating a lot better, Beverly. My wife and I are both so much healthier now. And my body feels the best it's felt in years.
Yeah. Now health is taking a priority, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I said last November, and just talking to you now is because we were waiting for that voice to get stronger. So progressively, it has gotten stronger.
It has. It's still, a ways to go. Yeah. But, it's stuff that I work on every day to strengthen it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It'll take a little while before it gets back to where I want it to be. But, it's significantly stronger now than it was even a few weeks ago.
So, at the intro, I was talking about delving into the past, looking at the past so you can move towards a brighter future. And the reason why I brought that up is because of the redress movement that you're involved in. And it is, it's kind of a way of, I look at it as healing, really. Tell me a little bit about redress movement and how you're involved in it.
So I joined the redress movement officially last year. I was hired as a member of the research team. It's a national organization that launched in 3 cities initially: Charlotte, North Carolina, Denver, Colorado, and Milwaukee. And the redress movement is a Black-led organization committed to leading a multiracial movement that empowers communities to take direct action to redress racial segregation. And, we've all heard Milwaukee's the most segregated place in the country. So, we're the poster child for segregation in many respects. And so the redress movement works in deep partnership with local communities to repair the harm caused by intentional policies to segregate communities. And we do our work by educating, and not only educating, but also mobilizing communities and shift the narrative about how we became segregated and the impact of that. And then winning redress victories, so holding people accountable for creating the segregation that we have and the negative impacts of that is really an important part of what redress is trying to do. And our starting point is housing, but we work in solidarity with others who are working on, social justice issues and redressing harms of the past. It's really important. As you said, the past really is something that we have to address. We can't just continue to ignore the ugly parts of American history because they're still impacting us on a daily basis, even if we don't see it.
Episode 14, Reclaim, Renovate, Reinvest, Changing Neighborhoods One Block at a Time. The best way to address community issues is through bottom-up solutions. This means tapping into the insights of individuals who have personally experienced poverty and possess a profound understanding of the challenges faced by the community. I have this candid conversation with Kurt Owens, the pastor of You Flourish Church of Milwaukee and the founder of Bridge Builders, a neighborhood development organization. Kurt shares his personal journey from being a drug dealer to becoming a pastor, his choice to stay in his neighborhood and create a positive impact, and the mission driving Bridge Builders. Their aim? To inspire inner-city innovation and transform neighborhoods one block at a time. There are some folks from your background who might be surprised at what you're doing now, right?
Yeah.
And you alluded to it earlier, but your life took a different path. I mean, you're a pastor now.
Yeah.
I think you're a PK too,
I
a
am.
pastor's kid. But somehow things got off track, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Were you a drug dealer?
I most certainly was. I most certainly was. I think I was attracted to it very young, or at least I was attracted to the lifestyle. I seen people in my community. Most of the people in my community were blue collar. I'd never seen a black lawyer. I'd never seen a black doctor. I'd never seen black white collar anything. Neighborhood I grew up in, it was just all blue collar. I wasn't attracted to blue collar. My dad was blue collar. I just wasn't. And I believed that I couldn't be anything that I wanted to be in life. And so I just figured that I'm going to have to make my own way. And it's crazy because the same year that I started college was the same year I became a drug dealer.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And I was going to school during the days, living the life of a drug dealer at night. And I became really good as being a drug dealer. And so I dropped out of college and I thought life was grand at the moment. And all of a sudden, I was shot at a number of times. I was robbed by gunpoint.
Wow.
And probably the last time I watched friends get murdered. Go to prison for a long time, and for whatever reason, like God's hand was on my life. The last time I was robbed, I was told to get down on my knees, and I just I'm about to get executed.
Wow.
And I just remember just saying, I only got enough time to say, Lord, forgive me. And I did. When I seen that I was still alive, I'm like, God, if you get me out of this situation, I promise I'll change my life. And I was able to escape, long story short. And I knew that God had spared my life, didn't understand why, because I did nothing to make him happy.
So what happened in Sussex that really kind of changed your thinking?
Yeah, well, people wanted to kill me in Milwaukee, so it was a great, outlet to spend all of my time in Sussex. And I was preparing myself for, my dad was born in 1936 in Mississippi, so my idea of white America was formed by, my dad, and so I was embracing myself for racism and all of those things in Sussex, and actually, I experienced just the opposite. I was kind of confused, and it was at that moment that I realized I couldn't put everybody in the same in the same basket. Sometimes we just use broad strokes. But I took a job there, making $7.50 an hour. It was pretty humbling. But my boss, he just began to show me love, and I don't know why again at that moment. And
he was white.
He was white, which was surprising to me again. And he promoted me over and over and over again. Made me warehouse manager. Brought me into the front office. He told me he'd train me on anything I wanted to learn in the front office if I'd be willing to punch out. I did, and when a position opened up in the front office, he would put me in it, and I just kept working.
Well, it's evident that the 411 Live is all about delving into a range of intriguing topics. And let me tell you, we've only just scratched the surface in these episodes. I highly recommend you checking out the full podcast or catching them on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Just so you know, the 411 Live is a nonprofit organization. If you'd like to support us, head over to our website, the411live.org. I'm Beverly Taylor. Thanks for joining us for the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. God bless. If you would like to check out past episodes, there are many ways. Go to your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Like and watch us on Facebook. Watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have suggestions for future episodes, go to our website, the411live.org.
4411 Live.
Where you can learn about issues that impact us every day. State of world, 411 Live.
Real people, real talk.
Made to help people in our community in every way. For your girl, 411 Live.
Hello, I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. Guess what? We've just hit another milestone. Praise the Lord. Season 8 is officially in the books, and you know we're always excited to celebrate our achievements. Now it's time to dish out some highlights from the completed season. We're serving up snippets from all 20 episodes, and in our last 2 podcasts, we took a trip down memory lane with episodes 1 through 14. But hold on tight, because in this final installment, we're keeping the review going strong. Get ready for a mix of topics covering important issues in our community, introducing you to some incredible people, and dropping knowledge that might just make an impact in your life. Let's get started. Episode 15, Clean Slate MKE, providing second chances through pardons and expungements in Wisconsin. In this episode, we sit down with Shanielle McLeod, the visionary behind Clean Slate MKE, to explore the world of criminal record expungement and pardons. The spotlight is on the transformative power of expungements, offering individuals with low-level offenses a shot at rebuilding their lives without the burden of a criminal record. We uncover the hurdles faced by those with criminal records and delve into McLeod's personal journey, showcasing how she turned her own experience into a force for positive change. Throughout the discussion, we navigate the critical distinctions between expungements and pardons, and sharing real-life success stories that illuminate the profound transformations possible with a second chance.
You know, once I found out what expungement was, I seen it as an opportunity to get what I thought was my life back. Mm-hmm. And in return, it gave me a whole new life because it put me in place to serve other people and help other people with getting a second chance and getting a fresh start, even if it meant I couldn't.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing to me some of the things that we feel are pitfalls, things that have had just a detrimental impact in our lives. And then we discover that we can use that experience to help others.
Correct.
And that's what you're doing.
And I didn't see it that way in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was just trying to learn the ropes, which led me into, being a paralegal in the first place, trying to learn how to read the law, because the law is not a very easy thing to read and comprehend and apply,
Yeah.
So once I learned how to be a paralegal, I went and interned at Legal Action, and I learned the step-by-step process of how to do an expungement and, get rid of that criminal record, at least from CCAP, to increase the, opportunities for employment, housing, education, and the other things that prevent people from moving forward with them.
Right,
with their
and CCAP being the Wisconsin Court System website.
That's correct.
That everybody goes to.
That's right. Everybody goes to CCAP, and CCAP people, it's an invasion of privacy is what it really is. And but it stopped me from, like you just said before. I remember sitting in Manpower, passing all the tests. They give you all these tests, and as soon as I get to the desk, she already got CCAP up, and she's shaking her head no. And I needed that job. When I say I needed that job, I'm talking about 2 months behind on rent. We energies need their money. I needed that job. And so I remember I was sitting at the desk at the job center, and this guy was like, I'm crying. I'm talking about I slipped into a deep state of depression. I have never known poverty in my life, So I'm sitting at the desk, and this guy was like, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" And I told him, and he said, "It sounds like you need your record expunged." And then boom.
That was it.
That light bulb went off for me in 2007, and I have not been off of it ever since.
So you took the route of paralegal, seeking, that avenue because of this?
That's correct.
Because you hadn't thought about this before.
No, I was in corporate. Like if I would have never lost my job in corporate America, I honestly probably still would have been there. I had no reason to come into this area of my life. I'd never been in jail before. I've never been in jail since then. I'm not a criminal. But once you get that record, you're labeled a criminal. And when people CCAP you, that's all they see. That's all they see is that one occurrence that you've done, and now it's like your brand and it's like your label. And they don't see past that. When it comes to applying to certain corporate jobs or even, the education entity, the banking industry, that record carries more weight than your resume.
Wow.
It does.
We were talking before, and you were saying that it really it affects women more than anything else.
It does.
Because women are going to those jobs, seeking those
entities.
jobs.
That's right. So think about it like this: people would think about mass incarceration, they think about men. But when it comes to criminal records and seeking opportunity, men particularly go into the skilled trades. They're mechanics, they're plumbers, they're electricians. I'm not saying that women can't be, but for the most part, when the last time a mechanic. You need to hire a mechanic. Did you ask about his criminal record? No. Because if he can start that car, he got the job.
That's all you care about.
That's all you care about, But women, and then they entrepreneurs. Most men, they are entrepreneurs. They got a record. They go and start selling stuff. They start car shops. They go into trucking, automotive. The automotive industries and the trucking industries don't care about your criminal record. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They care about driving record, yes. Criminal record, no. It's the flip side with women. When women, for the most part, we're nurturers. We're going into the cares industry, health care, child care, elder care, all in which your background is on the forefront. The education industries, like I said before, the banking industries, all on the forefront. When it comes to getting that position, they're going to look at your background first. And if you can't pass those, you can't get clearances, and you can't get, past the licensing boards and stuff it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's not happening. It's an automatic bar. And it doesn't matter how old that record is. I talked to many women who have had, food stamp fraud, you know what I'm saying, from 1990s and AFDC, you know what I'm saying? We don't even use the term AFDC no more. That just shows how old the record is. But those records still play a role in seeking opportunities. It still does.
Wow. Okay. So Clean Slate MKE, what are you doing?
So I'm a paralegal. I've been a paralegal for 13 years now. And so we do doc prep. Thank you. So we do doc prep. For the most part, we prepare documentation for people who are eligible to have their records expunged or seeking to get their rights back, also known as a pardon. So let's just say we get somebody, we vet them to see if they're even qualified to have their record expunged. And in the event that they are, we help them with the process. The expungement process can be quite complicated and expensive. And for people in the inner city of Milwaukee that are low income.
Episode 16, Breaking Barriers, Nia Boite's diverse triathlete book series for kids. I chat with the incredible Nia Boite, an award-winning author. We'll delve into her latest book series, Exploring All You Can Do, which focuses on diverse young athletes. Nia spills the beans on what inspired her to create the series and how she picked the sports featured in each book. We'll also dive into the significance of representation in children's literature and the positive impact her books have had on readers. The series covers a range of sports, including triathlon, hockey, snowboarding, skiing, and fencing. You have an aura. You bring positivity. You have the infectious smile and laugh. And I was like, well, she's just going to brighten up the room, And then to talk about all the things that you've been doing since a year and a half ago is great. With this new series, you kind of continue the triathlete vein of it, but with different sports.
Yes.
How did you choose these sports? Let's talk about what the sports are and how you chose them.
I know. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to speak with you as well. It's always nice to be here at the 411. And yes, and so actually when I wrote my first book, I had the second one already in mind.
Okay.
Only because I ski. And so originally, I've skied for 20 plus years, a lot longer than I've been a triathlete. I've been a triathlete now for about this year will be my 10th year being a triathlete. And so the ski and snowboarding book was already kind of boiling in my brain about, come on now, girlfriend, you've been skiing and snowboarding for a while. You got to do a ski and snowboarding book. And so, and I wanted to do one that had a grandmother. Actually, the triathlete one actually had a grandmother in it. And I reduced it down because when I went to my illustrator, he was going to charge me more to have more characters in the book. And so it became this book about a young girl's journey. And so it was kind of singular in that sense. And and some of it's really inspired by my own story and struggles of swimming and other things. And I kind of put that into the book, but really wanted people to write their own story. And so how can I tell people to write their own story when, I have all these other stories brewing inside of me? And so the ski and snowboarding was next. And then I've always liked fencing. I've always thought it was elegant and beautiful.
It is, but you don't see it. It's not highlighted a lot, or in my sphere, I guess. So I was surprised to see that one.
I know. Well, my thing is, why not? So my new series, I wanted to do something that I felt was impactful. So I wanted to show us in different ways. And so I wanted to highlight sports that, that I've enjoyed, but I haven't seen a lot.
Episode 17, The Courage to Stand Up, a 95-year-old's journey from Alabama to Milwaukee. In this one, we dive into the incredible journey of a 95-year-old legend, William Wattleton. Picture this. Growing up in Alabama, his family co-founded the self-governed black municipality of Hobson City. And he joined the Army and eventually found his way to Milwaukee. This man's got stories. Mr. Wattleton spills the beans on his involvement in a lawsuit that shook things up, bringing significant changes in workers' rights and opportunities in Wisconsin. Throughout our chat, we'll get a glimpse of his resilience, activism, and the unshakable faith he has in making positive changes in the world. You got in Laddish, you're working there, and you noticed some disparities. What did you see?
I happened to get to Laddish. My brother's father-in-law was working there. I was looking for a job, and I had applied for the fire department. Nobody had called me, and I needed a job. So I had gotten married. I didn't finish school. I didn't finish Marquette either, but I had a lot of experience by working as a student at Marquette. And then I got a job at Laddish. Now, me and my friend, Edward Thomas, we took the test at the same time, and he got called before I did. And so what he did, I went to Laddish, and in 2 days I made more money than he did, and he worked for a whole month.
So tell me what happened when you saw the pay at Laddish?
I walked around and seen a lot of people, young guys, and they were making $300 a week, and I learned how some of the white guy was making $1,100, $1,200 a week and $1,800 a week. And I couldn't figure it out. How come they were making so much and they doing the same kind of job?
Right.
And so what happened? I went around and talked to several guys. I said, man, you know how much that guy, I said, pointed out, I said, you know how much that guy made? That guy made more money than you do, about 3 times as much money you do. He did. I said, look, you know what, man, we should do something about that. So I kept talking to different guys. And so after I got the guys together, I got a number of guys together, and I told them to meet me at the YMCA on 12th Street. We went to 12th Street, so I talked to all of them. I told them about some of the things, a lot of things they didn't know. And so I had found it out, so I had went to another lawyer, Dr. Dale, and he was a civil rights lawyer downtown. He told me a lot of things. Then we had another meeting, and I got all the guys together, and there were 257 guys at Laddish, and I was able to get 127 of them together.
Oh, wow.
Half of them didn't believe what we were going to do, and, some of them,
Let's take a break. When we come back, we will continue our review of Season 8 of the 411 Live.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Hi. I'm your retirement fear. But don't be scared. You're still in pre-retirement.
Does that mean I have more time to plan?
Precisely. Here, this is pretirement.org.
Retirement savings options? Potential tax breaks?
Move.
This isn't scary. I'm doing it.
You got this.
Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan.
Welcome back. We are reviewing Season 8 of the 411 Live, and we're at Episode 18. We called it Grief and Resiliency, a mother-daughter perspective. My guest, Janine Hibbler, and her daughter, Sanaya. Now, these two know what grief is by experience. Janine's husband died of a heart attack during the peak of the pandemic, and her son committed suicide. Oh, and her father died too. All of this happening in less than a year. They both open up about the struggles, coping, and moving forward. Their journey is truly remarkable, leading Janine to start an organization that supports other widows.
I remember when the guidance counselor who was taking me there, because they had sent the guidance counselor to come get me, which also does not happen very often, so I knew something was a little bit wrong. And then when I finally got to the office, it was my father, my other brother, Gerald, the youngest, and then my uncle and my older sister. And so obviously I knew something was going on, and then the SRO was also there. So I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening?
Yeah.
So thankfully they made sure that they had me out of the building before they actually told me what had happened. Mm-hmm. And of course that was a very stressful day because, at first I knew Mom was on a business trip, so I thought something had happened to her. But then when they finally told me that it was my brother, of course you have that immediate heart drop and that disbelief at first. You're like, no, that can't be actually what happened. Mm-hmm. I need a different explanation for this. But then when that finally, settles in and you get that acceptance, which it doesn't happen immediately. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes it takes months, years, and stuff like that. And it definitely did take a while for me to finally accept the fact that he's gone, he's not coming back. I was constantly sitting at home waiting for him to come back from work or waiting for him to come back. And obviously he wasn't there. And then flash forward to when my grandfather passed. That was another one that I had a lot of disbelief with that one as well, because we didn't live in the home with my grandfather, but my grandmother was living with us. And so, just having to be kind of just sat down and told what happened. It was a lot more just a slower release of the information. I felt it was very abrupt when my brother passed away, and they just kind of said it to me straight, which I think now, I would have been able to handle it a lot better than I did back then, but obviously being 13 years old and being at school and not being able to say that last goodbye and all that, it was a little bit harder. I think it was great to have that kind of final closure, though, because my last moment with my brother wasn't bad.
Right.
He was wishing me off for school. He was being kind. He was being loving, as we know him to be. And so I think that very much helped me kind of go through the motions and deal with things a little bit better. And then when my father passed away, that was the only one that I was present for. And for me, I actually... I carried a lot of guilt with that one.
Why?
Because after the pandemic kind of like struck and everybody was indoors and stuff, we were having church services outside. And we were attending regularly, obviously, as First Lady and children and stuff. But after a while, I think carrying the weight of what happened with my older brother started to hit me, and I stopped coming to church. And so I wasn't there to hear him preach his last sermon. I was at home. And so I obviously felt bad already, but I remember, I think I had went to use the bathroom. The way that our house is set up is that all of our rooms are in a hallway. Mm-hmm. And my parents' bedroom is right next to mine. Mine's at the end of the hall, and theirs is kind of right on the corner right there. And I had walked past the room, and I saw my father laying there, but I thought he was asleep.
Oh, okay.
So, of course, you can imagine what I felt when Mom comes into my room and tells me that he, in fact, was not. So I think I carried a lot of guilt from that, thinking it was somehow my fault that I didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they tell you not to blame yourself and stuff, which is much easier said than done.
Right.
But yeah, it takes time, and it takes acceptance is the word that I mainly use. Once you learn to accept things and kind of just know that this is how it happens, we all have a day to be born, we have our days to live, and then we have our days where that comes to an end. So, yeah, I think just acceptance and being very honest with myself and just letting myself not only feel things, but just letting myself just have an understanding of things. Because I think when you go through these things at such a younger age, obviously, I think there's some growing up that needs to be done in that process for sure. Because you may think that part of your childhood has been taken away having to go through something so deep, especially having these 3 tragedies happen in a 10-month period where it was like I didn't even get a time to rest before the next and the next.
Yes.
So,
Episode 19, Building a Better Future, a journey of self-love and healing. In this insightful conversation, we dive into the powerful journey of breaking generational cycles and curses by prioritizing mental health and emotional well-being. The commitment is clear: preventing the transmission of negative patterns to the next generation. Joining me are 2 incredible guests: Sarah Newman, the visionary owner of Rise Youth and Family Services and founder of Project Mosaic, and Ebony Reeves, who is currently being coached by Sarah. Together, they unravel the pivotal role of self-care and mental health in achieving success across various aspects of life. The discussion emphasizes the importance of encouragement, setting boundaries, and having someone to listen. So, Ebony, when you started this process, where were you and where are you now?
Okay.
So what's your story, I guess I'm asking?
So I was on my self-love and healing journey when we were connected. So I felt to implement her was perfect because I needed that extra. I didn't know how to get to where I wanted to get to. Mm-hmm. So with the help of Sarah, I really learned a lot about self-care and the importance of mental health and just staying on top of that, because if I don't stay on top of that, I cannot continue to be an honor roll student. I cannot run my household. I cannot take care of my children. And I'm real big on breaking generational cycles and curses. Right. That was my main thing. I wanted to learn to manage my emotions better and break generational curses so that my children, can break those things, and so that they're not even connected to it. So that when they start having children, they can do things in healthy ways. So where I am now, I think we're all a work in progress still, but I think I know that if it weren't for Sarah and her resources, that I probably would kind of have like a dark cloud over me, because I was unaware of her program and I was unaware of the knowledge that I've been learning from her. Right. And Sarah's really big on reminding you of how far you've come, and like, Ebony, you accomplished this, and I am learning to celebrate even the small things. Yes. Because I'll tell Sarah like, hey, I got 4.0 this semester, and I'll to me, that's what I'm supposed to do. So I don't go like, oh, yeah. And she was like, that's awesome. And it's like she's more excited than me. So I'm learning to celebrate the big, the small, the in-betweens, because, I'm an awesome person and I've come a long way.
I like that. I'm an awesome person. I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, you were talking about generational curses. First of all, where are you in this, you said 4.0. Where?
Oh, so I'm a student at MATC.
Okay.
I'm majoring in criminal justice to become a victims' right advocate for domestic violence and sexually abused women and children.
Mm-hmm.
So I graduate in May.
Oh, wow.
So this is my third semester.
Episode 20, the final episode of Season 8, unveiling the hidden realities of child welfare and homelessness. This time around, we're shining a spotlight on the critical issues of homelessness and racial disparities within the child welfare system. In this eye-opening discussion, I had the privilege of chatting with Amada Morales, a dedicated family advocate, and Lincoln Rice, the author of The Ethics of Protection. Together, they illuminate the impactful work of Casa Maria Catholic Worker. That's an organization providing housing for women with children. We're delving deep into the challenges faced by this specific group, particularly women with children who grapple with the difficulty of finding emergency shelter and the risk of having their kids taken from them.
This was the first case that really made me wake up to the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a few years ago at Casa Maria. There was a mother staying there that she had a 15-year-old daughter. And just, if it's always unfair to judge parenting by children, but if you could, this daughter was one of the nicest teenagers we've ever had stay. So helpful, so compassionate, helping other kids out with their homework, helping people, but she had these triplets that were just shy of the time that you'd start giving them hard food. And they got the flu and they had a fever and they were vomiting everything. And a couple days into this, just out of desperation, she tried giving the triplets some hard food, a little bit of chicken. Mm-hmm. And they vomited that up also. And then the following day, she brought them to Children's Hospital, and what she thought was the case was the case. They had the flu. They made sure that the kids got enough fluids and gave them some medicine to bring the fever down. And they said the kids are going to be fine. But then the doctor said, I thank you for your forthrightness and letting me know everything that you tried. But feeding the children chicken was inappropriate, and I need to report that to Child Protective Services.
Wow.
And, this woman and her children are African American, and I just have a difficult time believing that if this was a white mother coming down from River Hills, that this doctor calls Child Protective Services on her. And then the CPS investigator came to Casa Maria, believed that this was an unsafe situation for the triplets and removed them. Again, if this was a mother in River Hills, I don't think these children get removed. And so, as I point out in the book, the average amount of time it takes a mother to be reunified, if that's what happens, is about 22 months, and that's almost exactly how long it took her to get her triplets back. But if we hadn't been able to give her a space, because as Amada pointed out, all of the court cases needing to go to a third place to meet with your kids regularly to show that you actually want to be with them. Because of her situation of homelessness, she wasn't able to hold down a job and fulfill all of her conditions because she needed to be readily available all the time. So it was just a heartbreaking case. And
and no one's really factoring the separation.
By the way, someone sent us the topic for that last episode via our website, the411live.org. So if you have an idea for a podcast, please let us know. And that concludes the 3-part look back at the 20 episodes of Season 8 of the 411 Live. Wow, we covered a lot. A huge thank you to all the wonderful guests and for the viewers and listeners. We now start Season 9. I hope you will tune in. Feel free to let us know how we're doing through our website. Go there if you'd like to support our nonprofit endeavors as well. I'm Beverly Taylor, and this is the 411 Live. Real people, real talk. God bless. If you would like to check out past episodes, there are many ways. Go to your favorite podcast platform, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, like and watch us on Facebook, Watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have suggestions for future episodes, go to our website, the411live.org.